So this week we've had drama in the desert with some potential rising stars. We've also had a bit of action out in Spain as well. We're going to discuss Visma Lease bike and is there trouble at Mill there at all or not? And I've also got a new feature called What's Hot and What's Not. Stay tuned for that. Okay folks, welcome to the Ride and Thrive podcast with me, your host, Dave Shields. So we're going to kick off in the desert in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and they had their big race of the year, and it's the first chance to get a look at some of the big name stars over a multi-day stage race. Now the UAE, the Tour of the UAE is 7 days, and if you remember earlier this year, it was going to be one of the first races for Jonas Vingegaard. But he had that little accident, didn't he? So he's not starring in this one. But we had lots of other big names there. So we're gonna talk through that first. Now, the overall was won by Isaac Del Torro from United Arab Emirates, and he's one of the rising stars. He's like Pogacar's understudy, if you like. He had a brilliant showing. Now he won stage 1, and he kind of caught the sprinters off guard a little bit, went a little bit early in the final kilometre and took the win. The stage 2 was a time trial, and that went to Remco Evenepoel. Now a bit on him a bit later on. Stage 3, Antonio Tiberi of Team Bahrain Victorious won that one. He held off Del Torro on a mountain stage. Now Del Torro did look fantastic in this, but he left it, I think, a little bit too late. But he was right at the back of the pack. He looked like he had no chance, but he came up right at the end. Just managed to hold it together, did Tiberi, for the win on stage 3. Now, stage 4 was a day for the sprinters and a bunch sprint, and that was Jonathan Milan won that one. Fantastic. He's just head and shoulders above the rest in this field, so he did really well to win that one. The same for stage 5 with Jonathan Milan again. So really good start for Little Trek. Yeah, they're showing quite strong this year. Stage 6 was the Isaac Del Torro show again. He had a really dominant display this time in the mountains, and he kicked off there, and Tiberi tried to go with him, and he stuck with him for the majority on his back wheel. But the last final push that Del Torro put in, he was stood up on his pedals, and he went, and there was no answer from Tiberi, and he just couldn't stick with him. So a brilliant win there for Del Torro, and hopefully that's a sign of good things to come from him. He's only a young lad. And the final day was another bunch sprint, which was won by Milan again. So 3 wins there, 3 stage wins for Milan and for Little Trek. So they're doing really well. So in the end then, so the GC stage was Del Torro took the win. It was Antonio Tiberi from Bahrain Victorious who came up second, and rounding off the podium was Luke Plapp from Jayco Alula. So a really interesting race that was, and just whets the appetite for what's to come. Now there were also some other races that were going on as well over the last week, finishing at the weekend. There was the Volta Algarve. And that was Juan Ayuso who took the win for that. That was another stage race. And he had the final stage, he took it on as a summit finish, and he held off Oscar Onley from Ineos, with Paul Sexas, who's a young talent from Decathlon, came in third. So the GC from there then, after the 5 stages of racing, was Ayuso in first, Paul Sexas in second, and Yao Almeida of UAE in third. Oscar Onley from Ineos, by the way, he came in a very noteworthy 4th, I think. Okay, so next up then, I've got a little story about Visma Lease bike, and it's one of those things I've seen this mentioned a few times in the cycling press of late, and I always liken it to when I'm leading a group in the outdoors and we're outside, and we call it the fruit machine effect, and it's about your lemons lining up, you know, and each one on its own doesn't seem like a massive problem, but you get a few of them lined up and you end up with a bigger problem. And this is kind of the situation here. So I think it goes back to the start of the season, really. They had some big names who left at the end of last season. So they had Dylan van Baal, who went to Soudal Quickstep, and Tej Benoot and Olav Koy went to Decathlon. Now, Benoot and Van Baal are classic specialists, so they would have really bolstered their squad for the classics. And Olav Koy was a good sprinter, so the loss of those was some big names, and they've not really had any big names in to replace those guys. So the squad's looking a bit thin, and I think, like any sport, you're always looking for the stories. You're looking for what's really going on behind the scenes. And does this hint at money troubles? I don't know. I'll come on to that in a moment. So that was one thing. Then we had Simon Yates' sort of surprise retirement, and that was quite a bit of a shock when he went. And then more recently, we've had the head coach Tim Heemskerk. He's left, and he's citing that he can't use his creativity. He's kind of hinted around that. He has a passion and a creativity for what he does, and the structure is so rigid at Visma that it's like a one size fits all, and it's just getting a bit tired, and it's just getting a bit thin on the ground now. And people aren't particularly liking it. So it's like a formula that they've had, and the thing is, they've been really successful with it. So that they've won multiple Grand Tours, and they're one of the biggest teams in the world. But I think personally that they may be struggling for money to keep that ball rolling, if you like. So the budgets for the teams in the Pro Tour, they're around about averaging around about 30 million pounds. But the bigger teams, the likes of Red Bull and UAE. They've got budgets of 50, 60 million pounds. So really, if they want to stay on a par with those big, massive corporations, and in UAE's terms, a country, then they've got to stump up that kind of cash. Now, the thing is that recently, the last few days, Visma have said that they're stepping back as a title sponsor. So from this moment on, they are looking for a title sponsor. Now, Lisa Bike, who's the other sponsor, the co-sponsor, they have a massive umbrella organisation that has a few other brand names under its belt. And I did read in Cycling magazine, or Cyclist magazine, that one of those brands is... I want to say Colnago. I'm not sure. I want to say Colnago, but it's one of the big bike brands, and I'll fact check it. And so they might come round and do a no, it wasn't Colnago, it was Cervelo. That's it, Cervelo. It's just come to me. So they might come on board as a sponsor, but you never know. But the headline is that they're looking for a new title sponsor, and also the companies are making a loss as well. They're making a loss of £5 million, I think, at the end of 2024. So they just can't keep going. They can't keep bankrolling it, I think, is the question, because they're just not making any money out of it. It's not worth their while. So we'll see where that one goes. Now, this all hasn't helped with some injuries they've had as well. I've already mentioned the... I keep forgetting his name. The Jonas Vingegaard injury that he had, when the member of the public chased him down the hill and he come off his bike and hurt himself. That put him out of the tour of the UAE. But then there was also the injury to Van Aert. So he got injured in the cyclocross season over December time, and he's been out missing the start of the season. So, it's... They've had it's like I say, it's like the lemons. They all seem to be lining up, and I'm just hoping that they can keep it together and be a good contender this year, especially for the likes of Jonas Vingegaard, to keep him going and keep him motivated to be his best, because we all want to see the big showdowns between especially between him and Pogačar. So we'll keep you posted on that, and if there's any moves afoot. These things tend to gather a little, the rumours go round first, and then it always seems to come true, if you know what I mean. So we'll keep you posted on that one. Okay, so now we're going on to the new feature. What's hot and what's not. I'll have to get a catchy little jingle there to go with that. Now, okay, so based on what I've said so far, so I'm saying this week, what's hot, it has got to be Isaac Del Torro from Team UAE Emirates for some blistering pace in the mountains, and also for taking the win of the GC of the UAE Team Emirates. I'm also going with Jonathan Milan and Little Track in general for doing really well, for getting 3 stage wins in Team UAE. So well done to them. They get a what's hot. What's not? I'm going Visma Lease bike. They've had a pretty poor showing in the last couple of weeks. So not much good to say about those guys at the moment. So they're getting a what's not. And also Remco Evenepoel. Now, I did mention that he won the time trial in stage 2 of the UAE Tour, and that was about it. That was about all he did. He, in the mountains, he didn't look great, I have to admit, and he shipped time. He lost like 2 minutes, and I think he was like 10th in GC in the end, like 2 minutes 25 down on the rest of the leaders. So he's going to need to do some work. At the start of the season, I was really singing his praises, saying he's going to be the one, he's going to be the next Pogacar, he's so good. But yeah, he's got a bit of work to do, and I think that's what these early days are all about. It's getting the work in, to get the training done and getting these races under the belt to try and hone your fitness and skill level for what's to come. We'll have a better idea in the classics, which will be starting at the end of Feb, sort of next week, actually. So really looking forward to that. There was the Vuelta Andalucía also taking place this week, and Tom Pidcock got his first win of the year, first stage win of the season, with the final stage, which was a mountain stage. So well done to him. However, it was Ivan Romeo that took the GC at the end of that from Movistar. So a great win for him there. Okay, so we're going to leave it there then, folks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another video in the week around the classics and all about the classics and what they are, because I've mentioned them a few times and I've had a few comments from people saying, what actually are the classics. So I'm going to do that in the week. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll be with you next week for more cycling news. Until then, bye for now.